So what's up guys, I am Black Ops Amazing, welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the boy in Cold War Zombies. We've just had some brand new intel in Season 4 that mentions him once again, but we've been hearing about him since the beginning. There has been mention of this child by multiple characters, Weaver, Samantha. We've been told various different things about him. We don't know 100% who this is, we can't confirm, but there is speculation that it's Eddie, although like I said, not 100% confirmed. So what I want to do in this video is go over not only the new intel that we have, but all of it, starting from the beginning, so we can start to gather a story as to not only who this could be, but also what happened to him. So what I've done is gone into the game and recorded every piece of intel that relates to this topic, and the first one we need to listen to is a radio from Maxis back in Season 1, where she talks about the first time she met Weaver. We know at this point in our zombie storyline, Samantha is in her early 30s, we are currently in 1984, but in this radio she talks about the first time she met Weaver back in 1979.
I want you to know that I've been in your shoes, and you can trust Weaver. He's a good man to have in your corner. A good boss. Back in the 70s, West Germany was a major investor and supplier to Iran. In exchange for oil and gas, we propped up their steel industry and aided their nuclear power program. I was there in '79 when the revolution kicked off. Western intelligence agencies coordinated with the CIA to ensure the Shah's safe extraction to the US. But a lot of diplomats and citizens weren't so lucky. Me included. If it wasn't for Weaver's intervention and willingness to go off the books, I'd be a forgotten memory by now. Trust him. Trust me. For now, I'm going to have to go dark. I'm en route to meet a contact in Southeast Asia. He says he knows exactly what Omega Group is planning.
It was during the Iran Revolution when Western intelligence agencies coordinated with the CIA to ensure the SARS safe extraction to the US. But as Samantha says, during that time, a lot of diplomats and citizens weren't so lucky. They didn't get to escape, including her. She tells us if it wasn't for Weaver's intervention during that time, his willingness to go off the radar, she'd be a forgotten memory by now. She'd be dead. Weaver saved Samantha during the Iran Revolution. What Samantha was doing there, how Weaver knew about her, was she just a regular citizen? Was she doing something else? That we're unsure of, but what we do know is that Weaver saved her. It wasn't a part of his mission, he was only supposed to extract the SAR, but for one reason or another, he also saved Samantha. So from what we can tell, that was the first time that the two met back in 1979. We are now in 1984, so that's a whole 5 years. There is a lot of timeline we are missing, what happened between Samantha and Weaver during that time, because it is very clear that they have a strong relationship. Samantha cares about Weaver, Weaver cares about Samantha, so there must be a bunch of events that happened in a 5-year time span that we haven't heard of yet. But in this next radio, which is a conversation between Maxis and Dr. Grey, this takes place while Samantha is in the hospital bed in Requiem HQ after she's just been rescued from the Dark Ether in Firebase C.
Hello, Elizabeth.
How did you know it was me?
I don't know what Strauss and Carver get up to in their personal lives, but as far as I know, you're the only one who wears heels.
How you doing, Sam? Have any more memories come back?
About my time in the Dark Ether. Only what you already know. It's mostly a blur. Scavenging supplies by day, fighting for my life by night. Not that it matters. It's always dark over there.
I am sorry, I really am. Have I said that before? If I didn't, I really meant to.
If you're here to ask me if I was the one who made all this happen, the answer is no. I didn't make the outbreak zones.
But it almost sounded like you had some control over the creatures at Outpost 25.
I may have helped open the door, but that doesn't mean I was in control.
How can you be sure if you don't really remember?
I'm no stranger to memory loss. My childhood is almost a complete blank. But that doesn't mean I don't know who I am and what I've done.
You really don't remember anything prior to the orphanage? Who looked after you? Before? After?
Be careful, Lizzie. You shouldn't expect anyone to look after you. Only you can do that.
I'm gonna go now, if that's okay.
Of course. This is the only way.
We know that Samantha suffers from memory loss. She has ever since she was a child back in our old timeline, before 321 World War. Ever since she became infected by the Dark Ether back in Doris, we know one of its side effects is memory loss. So she's had that problem ever since she was a child. And in this conversation, she's talking to Gray about what she did in Firebase C, how it was potentially Samantha that caused the zombie outbreak in that map in the first place. Samantha is denying it, but Gray says to her, how can you be sure if you don't really remember? Maxis then says, I am no stranger to memory loss. My childhood is almost a complete blank, but that doesn't mean I don't know who I am or what I've done. And then Gray says back, you really don't remember anything prior to the orphanage? Who looked after you? Before? After? So this reveals to us that Samantha was an orphan. When she first entered the Cold War universe, she would have been about 12 or 13 years old. That's how old she was in Toten, which was in the 1960s. She entered the Cold War universe in the same year. We are now in the 1980s, so 20 years later, which aligns with Samantha's age now, where she is 30. But at one point in the Cold War universe, she would have been a child. She had no father because, well, Maxis was dead. She had no mother since she died during childbirth. And we are told in this radio that Samantha was an orphan. She had no parents when she came into the Cold War universe. So when she arrived here, she was put into an orphanage and, I would guess, adopted. But she doesn't know who took her under, who raised her as a child, and what happened to her between the ages of 13 and 30. One minute we hear that she's a child, and the next minute she's in her 30s. So we know nothing about a lot of her childhood, her teens, her young adult life. That's all missing from her memory. And of course the big question then is, well, we know Eddie entered this universe with Samantha. In the Toten ending cutscene, it wasn't only her that was walking towards the light, it was Eddie as well. They both entered the Cold War universe, yet so far in our zombie storyline, we've only heard of Samantha. If Sam was put into an orphanage, was Eddie as well? Well, starting to talk more about what could be Eddie, this next document is taken from a diary entry written by Samantha. She writes, sometimes I find it hard to sleep, even though I look forward to it. When I dream, I see faces. Faces of people I care about, and faces of people that don't care for me. Sometimes it's hard to distinguish between the two, but one face that stands out from all the others, the face of a child, a boy. He is lost, damaged. I want to help him, but somehow I feel that he is dangerous. Dreams are unreliable witnesses, as to am I. Sometimes I find it hard to sleep. So in Samantha's diary, which, if I'm not wrong in saying, was written when she was trapped within the Dark Ether in Firebase C, she spoke about how in her dreams she saw the face of a child, a boy, and that he was lost and damaged. She wanted to help him, but somehow felt that she couldn't because he was dangerous. However, she doesn't know if this is true because not only does she have memory loss, but dreams are unreliable witnesses. She doesn't know if her mind is making this up or not. This was the first time we heard about this boy, and since then, there has been multiple pieces of intel that speaks about him. Now, as to who this is, straight away you would think, is the child, is this boy Eddie? Since we don't have a name, I can't say for sure, but in this next radio, well, just take a listen.
Weaver.
Hello, Sam.
You look serious.
My colleagues tell me you've not exactly been cooperative or forthcoming. Instead, you've been evasive, obtuse even.
Ain't that just like me?
This isn't a joke, Sam. I'm worried about you. We all are.
After what I've been through, do you honestly think I'm joking?
Sam.
I thought I'd died and gone to hell. I thought everything and everyone I ever knew was gone forever.
You've been to hell before, though, Sam. We both have. I was never going to leave you there to die.
Like you did the boy.
That's not fair, Sam. That was a different situation. We both did all we could.
But not enough. He's still dead, isn't he?
I can see you're agitated, so I'm gonna let you get some rest. I hope you feel better soon. I don't want to upset you.
Why? Are you worried I'll destroy everything like you think I did at Outpost 25? Weaver!
So once again, this is another conversation where Samantha is lying on the hospital beds in Requiem HQ. However, this time she's talking to Weaver. Weaver's talking about how Samantha's being evasive, not cooperating with Requiem. Samantha says, "Isn't that just like me?" Weaver then replies, "This isn't a joke, Sam," to which Maxis says, "After what I've been through, do you honestly think I'm joking? I thought I'd died and gone to hell. I thought everything and everyone I ever knew was gone forever." This is important because Weaver then says, "You've been to hell before though, Sam." "We both have. I was never going to leave you there to die." And that's when Samantha says, "Like you did the boy?" Weaver replies, "That's not fair, Sam. That was a different situation. We both did all we could." And then shockingly Samantha says, "But not enough. He's still dead, isn't he?" So I'm assuming when Weaver says, "You've been to hell before though, Sam. We both have. I was never going to leave you there to die," he's talking about the Iran Revolution. Weaver saved her from the Darkether and Firebase C, and he also saved her back in 1979. But this time Samantha brings up the boy because she says, "Well, you weren't going to leave me there to die, but you did the boy." Again, we don't have a name, but could this boy be Eddie? Now, one thing I will say is, in 1979, Samantha would have been in her late 20s. Eddie is about the same age as Samantha, a couple of years younger, so he also would have been in his mid-20s in 1979, meaning if Eddie is the boy, that's a little bit weird to me because you're calling someone in his mid-20s a boy. But we don't know that for sure. We don't know 100% if Eddie did end up coming into the Cold War universe at the same time as Samantha. It could be, for one reason or another, he entered the Cold War universe much further on. Samantha arrived here in the 60s. Eddie, for example, could have come here in the early 70s, meaning because of time travel, he wouldn't have aged. That's the only excuse I can think of if this boy is in fact Eddie. Of course, it could be someone else, but if we just listen to this next radio, we get more of an idea on this.
I don't know how or why, but I am remembering. I was angry before, and I am so sorry. That wasn't me. If it was, it really wasn't who I wanted to be. I made a promise I couldn't keep. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I wish I could have kept you safe. I didn't. Maybe that anger made me do things I wish I hadn't done. I may regret some, but others I meant to do. He deserves whatever damnation I have brought upon him. I hope he burns in a hell worse than mine.
So again, that was a message from Samantha when she was trapped in the Darkether, just saying that I made a promise I couldn't keep, how she's sorry and she wishes she could have kept you safe. I'm assuming she's referring to the boy, how he's dead and she couldn't save him. And then continuing on this, in season 4 we've just had some brand new intel, more diaries from Samantha, where she continues on this. The first one is called Quarantine Diary 1, and she writes, "I'm writing it down, not because I don't know what happened, but so that others will. My name is Maxis, Samantha Maxis. I know you're reading this, Weaver, and I know you feel the same guilt I do about the boy. I promised I would keep him safe, but we both failed him. The last thing I expected was for you to move as quickly as you did. The operation should never have happened. If I had known the steps you would take, I would not have told you the location. The house was supposed to be safe. We both feel guilt, but I will always blame myself, more than you." In her next diary entry she writes, "I'm not disappointed, I'm just angry. After everything I've done, you still don't trust me. I've been damned before, and I wouldn't wish that upon anyone. Do you even remember when we first met? Sometimes I do, but other times, it seems more like a dream. All I know for sure is that it was a war zone, one that I feared I'd never be able to escape. In some ways, I'm glad you didn't clear me for field ops. Yes, I know it was you, because I don't ever want to go back." And then in the last diary entry she writes, "I remember waiting for the call. 10, 11, 12, the phone never rang. Instead, I saw news of the explosion on TV. I couldn't sleep. 3 AM, I heard a knock at the apartment door. You gave the keyword, and I let you in. We'd never met face to face before. It was a shock to finally meet you. You were in a bad way. I did my best to dress your wounds, but it was the first and only time I had ever saw you cry. You mumbled something about not knowing, about how sorry you were. You torched the place to cover your tracks after the hit. You said the boy was supposed to be staying with his mother, but he wasn't. He was there, in the house, while it burned to the ground. So there we go, we finally have an answer as to what happened to the boy. I'm assuming this all happened during the Iran Revolution because Samantha says she knows that Weaver feels the same guilt that she does about the boy. She promised to keep him safe, but both of them failed him. From what I can gather, Samantha told Weaver about the location of a house, but she didn't expect him to move so quickly. What was special about this house, why Weaver needed to go there, that I don't know, but she says the house was supposed to be safe. Weaver went off there, Samantha was watching on the TV, and that's when she saw an explosion on the news. She says she couldn't sleep, and it wasn't until 3 AM when she heard a knock on her apartment door, and that's when Weaver returned. And the first thing he did when he met her again, after she dressed his wounds, was say sorry. He didn't know that the boy was at the house that he was sent to, because, well, Weaver burned it to the ground. Now, like I said, why Samantha told Weaver about the location of this house, why Weaver burned it to the ground, I don't know. It's obvious from what Weaver says that the boy or the child wasn't supposed to be there. Weaver didn't think he was in the house, that's why he burned it, but he was. So Weaver killed the child in a house fire. Like I said, we still don't know why he burned the house. He said he was trying to cover his tracks, but why he went there in the first place? Was he trying to find someone or something? But this does reveal how the boy was killed. The big question then is the boy Eddie? It's obvious that Samantha has a very close connection to him, so does Weaver from what we can tell, and the only other boy we've ever heard of in our zombies timeline is Eddie. However, the dates don't 100% match up, unless he did arrive in the Cold War universe at a different date. So if it isn't Eddie, who else could it be? Maybe a half-brother that was adopted alongside her? We don't know for sure, but it's definitely interesting. So there we go. Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. As always, hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have enough to do, drop a like rating. Make sure you are subscribed to stay up to date with the latest videos on the channel. And as always, guys, I'll see you in the next video. Until then, goodbye.